Coming to you from an abandoned cabin on the lake. The horror. It's the little podcast of horrors with James, Christina, and Chris.
Hey, what's up? This is
James.
Little Podcast of Horrors. I forgot the name of our podcast. I had 2 sips of wine and immediately forgot what our podcast was called. Yep, this is Christina.
I'm Chris.
I'm Heather.
Special guest.
Yeah. Thank you for having me again.
And James, I think you already said your
I got
name,
mine in
so
early. I'm on
we
the
don't
ball.
care. But no. All right, this is episode and
Episode
12. Okay. So it is
Episode
my-
N+1.
This is my show today. And so the story I'm subjecting everyone to is the
This could be
disappearance-
sad.
Yes. It's not graphic though, because we don't know anything. So
Okay.
the disappearance of Dorothy Arnold. So let me, as I usually do, say my references so that I don't forget while I'm going through. So I use truecrimeedition.com, allthat'sinteresting.com, and of course Wikipedia because I'm lazy. So
what's everybody drinking?
oh yeah, that too. I'm drinking a Cabernet Sauvignon from the very fancy Boda Box.
I'm drinking Coca-Cola from Chewy's.
I am drinking a poor girl's sangria that Christina made for me. And she's right. It is pretty good. Not bad.
So
That's
I'm drinking a variation of one of my all-time favorites. So here in the DFW, one of the breweries out here in Lakewood does what's called a Temptress, which is a milk stout, but they do a bajillion variations of it. And the newest variation that I'm trying is the salted caramel Temptress.
That sounds good.
It is.
I just realized with you guys here, you'll get to see how much I sweat when I tell my story.
Oh, I'm missing out.
I get so nervous. I get really hot. Okay. It is. I can't turn the fan on though either because it makes a lot of noise. So
You could just take your sweatshirt off.
I don't have any.
Oh,
I
is it
just
gonna be
have a
that kind of
bra
show?
underneath. I'm what's going to herald you to the next life after you die. Me and my bra.
Little podcast of sexy horrors.
Or bra and her pink sweatpants.
Yeah.
I don't know how to take that. How you should take that little podcast of the sexy horrors.
I mean, I like it. I dig it. I'm a sexy horror. I get it. All right. This again is the disappearance of Dorothy Arnold. All right. So
Where'd she go?
I don't know. You tell me, James. What did you do with her?
I don't know.
Okay. So Dorothy Harriet Camille Arnold was born on July 1st, 1885. So she's a Cancer, just like me, in New York City. She's the daughter of Francis Arnold, who was like a big time fine goods importer. Specifically, though, like his bread and butter was importing fancy perfumes. So she's the daughter of Francis Arnold and Mary Martha Parks Arnold. So Mama Mary's family, and I did write Mama Mary's family in my notes, came to the US from Montreal, and her father's family, her father Francis, Dorothy's father, not Mary's father, Francis's family arrived in the US on the Mayflower. So they're like OG European colonists.
Daughters of the American
Yeah.
Revolution.
Yeah. And yeah, so he comes from old money too, right? So he went to Harvard. Francis's sister Harriet married a Supreme Court justice, Rufus Peckham, just to kind of paint the picture of like really old white people money. Okay. So Dorothy herself, she was the second of 4 children. She graduated from Bryn Mawr College in Pennsylvania in 1905 with a degree in literature and language. After she graduated, she moved back in with her family in New York City. They lived in a really nice, affluent neighborhood where she pursued a writing career, which didn't go well. So she suffered some rejections, as writers tend to do. But I can imagine probably in the early 1900s as a female writer, probably
I
a
was about to
lot.
say, is like as any giving writing career tends to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But her family made fun of her for her rejections. Yeah. And wanting to even be a writer.
As any given writing career tends to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was so embarrassed by like her family's teasing, about her career that she actually rented out a PO box so that all her
They wanted her to be a dentist, didn't they?
pretty much. So that all her rejection letters would not go to her actual house for them to see. So it would go to a PO box so they wouldn't know.
Makes sense.
And one kind of side note, she did try to get her own apartment, but her father wouldn't let her, and she couldn't pay for it on her own. So like, anyway, that's just a detail. Okay, hold on. Sorry. Okay, so the disappearance. On December 12th, 1910, Dorothy leaves her family home around 11 a.m. to go shopping for a dress for her younger sister's debutante ball. Her mother, Mary, offered to go with her, but Dorothy didn't want her to come. So Dorothy went on foot.
What's a debutante ball?
That's like old money fancy people things that I
Yeah.
don't really understand. Is it
It's
like,
where you just go be fancy.
yeah, is it like a coming out party? Like when you hit a certain age,
Yeah,
like
you're right.
you're able to be married and accept suitors and coming into society. That was from Heather, if you didn't hear. Okay.
So
let me
coming
take
out
this.
as eligible party.
Yes.
Come on down to the debutante ball. You know that?
That's right. I'm gonna be debutante balls.
I don't know. It just makes me think of like old films.
Come get your lady.
Come get your lady. Like, didn't they like when they like you have to like sign up to dance with a girl? Like they'd have like the little like dance card. Thank you. Couldn't think of it. Like you had to like well, I'll put you down. Like that kind of thing. So yeah.
All right. So, excuse me. I had to burp.
Excuse me, guys. I got some gas.
Okay. So Dorothy went on foot to the Park and Tilford store, which was on 5th Avenue and 59th Street.
So real fast, she was born in 1885,
Mm-hmm.
and this is in 1910.
1910.
Okay,
Yes.
I was trying to get like an age-ish.
Oh yeah, that's smart. I can't do math, but like
25.
25. Yeah. Okay.
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 Marrying age.
Isn't it like
Definitely
old
marrying
hag
age.
by 1910 turns?
I know. If you're
Probably.
not married by the time you're 28, well, you're just an old maid. I don't know why I just became Katharine Hepburn.
Your alter ego is Katharine Hepburn.
I can
Okay.
only be so lucky.
So I looked up what Park and Tilford store was because I didn't know, and that seemed like
Come on down to Park and
important to
Tilford.
the references. Do what?
Come on down to Park and Tilford.
Yeah. So it's basically a grocery store for rich people. So they offered like domestic goods and produce, but also imported fine international goods. like cognac, cigars, French perfumes, and then like other various coveted candies.
So it's like one of those urban grocery stores downtown
Yes.
nowadays.
It would now be hipster, yeah, but
Yes.
only wealthy people could really afford to shop there. Okay, so anyway, at Park in Tilford, there Dorothy charged some chocolates to her account, like her store account. So they know that she stopped in Park in Tilford. She then walked to a Brentano's bookstore, purchased a book called Engaged Girl Sketches by Emily Calvin Blake.
So it's like sketches of engaged girls.
So I didn't write any notes on it, but when I was reading about it, it was like a popular comedy. Like, I don't know if it was exactly a comic strip, but it was a funny a book, I guess, like a tiny, like a novella, like short book.
Okay.
So less sketches, not like artwork sketches, like drawing sketches, but like written sketch, like sketch comedy type.
Yes.
So engaged people sketch comedy.
Yeah.
That's a niche.
Okay, yeah. So she stopped in that Brentano's bookstore, bought that book. The clerks of the store testified that she seemed normal and courteous, like not in distress, totally chill. Outside the bookstore, Dorothy runs into one of her good friends, Gladys King. And King said that Dorothy was in good spirits and mentioned that she was going to walk home through Central Park. And that is the last person to ever see her. So she was last seen at 2 p.m. and then she disappears off the face of the earth. So by dinner time, Dorothy hadn't returned home, and this caused concern for her family because she normally wouldn't miss meals without letting anybody know. They called some of her friends, but no one knew where she was. Okay, this is my section called Weird Details.
Details that are weird.
Yes. I'm an expert storyteller.
So we're now to the point in my bullet list of notes, of hastily hand scribbled notes.
It's on a Google Drive note, like Google Docs, okay? All right, so weird details. So, Dorothy left the house. She said she was going to go shop for a dress for her sister's party. But there's actually no evidence that Dorothy ever shopped for a dress, the one that she was going out to look for. So she stops at that grocery store, she stops at a bookstore, and then by all accounts walks through Central Park and disappears.
So she loaded up on chocolates and books and got some gone.
Yep.
I mean, I'm kind of that's what I would do in her situation.
Okay, so sometime around midnight on December 13th, Dorothy's friend Elsie Henry called the Arnold residence to see if Dorothy had shown up, right? So, she had gotten word from Dorothy's family that she was missing. So she calls back to kind of follow up. So Mary, Dorothy's mother, answers the phone and tells Elsie that Dorothy had returned home and gone to bed with a headache. So she couldn't speak to Elsie because Elsie requested to speak with her. She was like, no, she's in bed with a headache. So
she had too many chocolates.
Yeah.
And books and has a headache.
Yes. Okay. And so the family, I mean, we know she didn't go home. So her mom lied about that. But the family doesn't contact the police. They use a private investigator. But actually, first, before they even call the private investigator, they call their family friend and lawyer, John Keith, to look into her disappearance.
Well, so I wonder if this is like a rich person. They don't want all the headlines and they don't want the fuss. They're trying to keep it under wraps for a while, kind of situation.
right?
Yes.
And this is still the era of women are property, right? So this is basically our
Uh-huh.
property has disappeared. So we're calling a lawyer.
Well,
Yeah.
we don't want
Yes.
a bad name. We
Yeah.
don't want our name in papers for this negative thing.
Yeah, because why would you lie about your daughter coming home when she didn't and she's missing?
She may have just gotten the vapors.
She got all that chocolate and books in her head.
Getting too many ideas reading books.
Thinking.
Okay, Heather, you're spot on. So that is the reason
Okay.
that they give for not calling the police. So, they have the family friend and attorney come in and like look through a room. He doesn't see anything missing. Like she didn't pack up a bag or anything like that. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So they decide to hire Pinkerton Investigation. And I don't know if you guys have
Oh.
ever watched the show The Pinkertons, but
Well,
they're very famous.
Pinkertons. Yeah, Pinkertons are not a good thing.
So they hire the Pinkerton investigation firm. And then so they do their own investigation. They also go to her room. They call hospitals, morgues, jails. No sign of Dorothy. Okay. So 6 weeks go by. And then they decide, okay, you know what? We're going to call the police.
Wow.
And that's why that's in weird details, because really 6 weeks is a long time to let that go.
Parents of the year there.
Yes. Okay. But to Heather's point, they were worried about the public scandal. So apparently around the same time, like another socialite had gone missing. And that family reported the girl missing immediately. And it turns out she just kind of ran away for a little bit to Boston and came home. So they were scandalized and shamed in all the papers. So yes, to your point, Heather, that's exactly spot on why they didn't call the police outright. Okay, let's see. And here's some things that I've already said. Let's skip. So, they do the investigation. I told you they called the hospitals, morgues, jails, and the surrounding area. They did find in her room transatlantic ocean liner papers. So Pinkerton investigations thought maybe she had eloped with someone abroad, but then they couldn't find any marriage licenses with her name on them. So when the police were called in, it's January 25th, 1911. And so the family holds a press conference because the NYPD were like, you really need to do this. Like, it's been too long. So they offer a $1,000 reward, which in today's currency, it would be like $30,000 for any info that leads to her discovery. So a little bit about Dorothy. She did have a romantic interest that she had met in Bryn Mawr when she was going there. And her dad hated him. George Griscom Jr. He was a 30-year-old engineer from a well-to-do family who lived in Pittsburgh. So a couple months before she goes missing, she has a secret rendezvous with her lover, George, in, I think, Pittsburgh. They rent out a hotel and like stay there for a week, I think. And I think they were going to stay longer, but her father caught wind of her tryst when she was pawning off jewelry. They're like family jewelry.
So they were there for a week, you said?
Yeah, and then I think they were going to stay longer, is what I kind of
So
felt.
she's already been gone missing once before.
Sort of. She told them that she was going somewhere, though.
Oh.
Like, she was going on a vacation. I think she told them she was going to go meet some of her girlfriends from college. So not totally missing. Okay, where was I? Okay, but George Griscom, like, where was he when she went missing, right? He was vacationing in Italy with his family. Sorry, got the burps. Oh, the wine burps.
She's got the gear.
She was, taking a classy vacation, and
Okay, so Yeah, George was not in the vicinity. Like he couldn't have snatched her up and murdered her or whatever, like they have to investigate everybody in her life, right?
Right.
So he was in Italy with his family. But the hotel staff in Italy actually said that they saw a veiled woman visiting George in Italy. And she seemed to be agitated. Like they had like a heated discussion and then she left. So the NYPD at this point thinks that Dorothy's alive. But her family believes that she's dead, right? Like they don't think that she would just leave and not say anything. But the NYPD is like, listen, George, had some chick come to the hotel. It was probably her. So they're kind of not super emotionally invested in this.
Yeah, I think the family's going for the low-hanging fruit there. It's like, oh, she's dead.
Yeah, the family's like, yeah, she's gone. So they did search Central Park because, that's presumably where she was going to cross to get home. They didn't find her body. Her father, for some reason, really believed that she had been killed and then dumped in the Central Park reservoir. Like he was really convinced of that.
Oddly specific.
Yeah. And so, the police searched Central Park and then they also searched the reservoir. But at the time, the reservoir was actually frozen solid. So they really didn't, they were like, dude, there's no way they dumped the body here without like people are just laying on top.
The body just like hits the
Look,
ice
officer.
and hits the ice.
A dedicated killer would cut out a hole in the ice and dump her body down there, just like a good killer would do.
Yeah.
That's where I dump all the hookers.
God. No. Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, so once the reservoir thawed, they were like, okay, we're gonna like search the whole thing now. Obviously didn't find her body. Okay. So some theories. So some believe that she committed suicide over her failed quote unquote writing career. So this theory came from her boyfriend, George Griscom. And he based this on the following message that I'm going to read to you guys that he received from her not long before she disappeared. Okay, so this is what she says. Well, it has come back. McClure's has turned me down, which was like a popular publication. Failure stares me in the face. All I can see ahead is a long road with no turning. Mother will always think an accident has happened. That's the message he received from Dorothy.
Yes, I will die now.
That's
Yeah.
ominous.
That's
Yeah.
very ominous.
Okay, and then some of her friends actually thought she committed suicide as well, but they thought it was actually because her relationship with George had kind of begun to fall apart. So kind of classic, like heartbroken girl suicide scenario. The next one I think is one of the more intriguing theories. So,
if she would have committed suicide, you would think they would have found her body then.
yeah, body. And I feel like maybe she would have left a note or something too.
Well, and didn't the shopkeeper or her friend, whoever who saw her last, say that she was in like good spirits and cheerful? And
Yeah.
I'm not buying that one.
Yeah.
I'm not buying suicide. I'm not buying.
What year is it again? What was the date that she?
Yeah, 1910. Okay, so the theory that is most interesting to me is a botched surgery, abortion.
After their week
Yes.
tryst.
Yes. So that was like 3 months before her disappearance.
Okay.
So here's the deal though. So an illegal abortion clinic in Pennsylvania was raided not long after her disappearance. The clinic was run by Dr. C.C. Meredith. Apparently a lot of women had died there from botched abortions and then been burned in the furnace. So a lot of disappearing women. A doctor.
So wait. So they botched the abortion and then just burned the woman?
Yeah, they died, and so they
Yeah.
disposed of their bodies. Yeah.
Good Lord.
Mhm.
I thought James was asking, like, sorry, I totally like. So they just messed up the abortion, and so they would be like,
No,
nope.
not like alive.
That's I'm like,
Like it's one assumes the abortion failure is fatal.
fatal.
And they
I don't know.
like,
It's like,
do the
ah,
first-
we didn't do that right. I'm gonna kill the light. I'm gonna kill the mom too. But no, I gotcha.
Nope. Okay. So a Dr. H.E. Lutz was a doctor that worked there in the illegal abortion clinic. He testified that Dorothy had come in for an abortion, died, and was burned in the furnace like all the other women that died of their botched abortions. There's no more information on that. That's
How do
his
you, like-
testimony. They left it at that.
How does that just end? Like,
Yep, that's it. That's all I could find. So
Oh, okay.
if others out there have more information and they know it, please send it to us because
I mean, part of this is welcome to being a woman in 1910.
oh
Mhm.
yeah,
yeah. So her father didn't believe this one. He said, "This is bullshit. That's not my Dorothy."
yeah.
Okay, so another theory is that there was a robbery that basically went wrong. She was carrying around $25 to $30 in cash, which today would be $800 to $900. So
delicious chocolate.
and delicious chocolates, yes,
Delicious chocolates.
and a funny book apparently. All right, and then kidnap and murder. So the family received, after Dorothy went missing, they actually received 2 ransom notes claiming that they had their daughter and then demanding money. Those turned out to be bullshit, just people taking advantage of the situation, because that would have been after their
Yeah, no.
press conference. Yes.
I was gonna ask, like,
Mhm.
did this come after the press conference?
Yes. So after that press conference, as usual, which, it still happens today, they got a lot of false tips, false leads that they had to waste resources on. And yeah, apparently some ransom notes. So one sort of intriguing claim, though, was made by a gentleman named Edward Glenoris. So, okay, so he claimed this like 5 years after her disappearance. So this is a lot of time has passed. He says that he disposed of her body. He says this dude named Little Louie hired him to get rid of an unconscious woman, and she was wearing a signet. Is that how you say that? I've always said signet, but I don't know.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I think so.
Okay. She was wearing a signet ring that Dorothy was known for having. Okay. Edward tells like this elaborate story of being hired. This is the paraphrasing of his wild story. He's hired by some wealthy men to drive her to a house in New Jersey. So from a house in like Brooklyn or something to New Jersey. And she's unconscious. Okay, so then he's asked to come back to that house in New Jersey, and one of the wealthy guys is there, and he says that she died during an operation. And so he has this Edward Glenoris guy take her body back to the original house that he had picked her up from, like in Brooklyn or whatever it was. And there he buried her in the cellar. The police excavated that home that he claimed to have buried her in, and there was no body. So Edward made up a really outrageous lie. And like, that was me paraphrasing. When you look it up, if you look it up yourself, there's like a whole scenario he draws out that doesn't make any sense. But anyway, they did excavate that cellar. No body was found there. And then Edward later was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never met Dorothy or seen her before. All right. And then the last theory, that she ran away. So the family received notes signed Dorothy, and they did believe that it was in her handwriting, saying that she was safe, like I am safe or whatever. They also got a tip from a jeweler in San Francisco claiming that a woman that he believed was Dorothy came in to get a wedding ring inscribed on that January 7th. So not long got like a month after her disappearance, a little less. And I wrote down the inscription. I don't know what it means. To AJA from ERB, December 10, 1910. So that's the inscription. But and then the NYPD decided to just stop investigating her disappearance not long after this. They just really believed like she ran off or she was dead and they're just not going to find her. So like eventually they were just like, we give up. Yeah.
There's nothing here. We can't do this.
So, is there any word on what happened to her boyfriend? What was his name? Chris?
George?
George?
Wow.
George. Like,
No. I don't know what happened
did
to
he
George.
kinda fade away and then they got married?
I don't know. I hope she ran away and they got
That's-
married. That's what I
I'm
hope.
hoping. I'm hoping she ran away.
Yeah, I hope that was her in Italy and she's just like, I'm ready. You need to get out of here. Like they're catching on.
Yeah.
Like we need to go. But no, I didn't find anything else about George. So, maybe. So in the end, the Arnold family spent $250,000 to find Dorothy, which they obviously didn't. Her father passed believing that she had been killed. Her mother passed believing Dorothy was still alive somewhere. Oh, and then my last note was about the police. They ultimately believed that Dorothy killed herself. So that was like their official conclusion, was that she killed herself over her failed writing career.
That's the one that makes the least amount of sense.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I feel like the abortion one was intriguing. Like that was an interesting theory. And, a doctor claimed to have seen her, like performed an abortion on her and she died.
Well,
but I hope that she ran away.
Well, the thing is now is like whatever they did with those bones. If the police raided they obviously interred these remains somewhere, didn't they? If we could DNA test those bones today, couldn't they?
Unless it was hot enough to burn the bone.
Yeah, I'm thinking cremation, I guess is what I'm thinking. I'm picturing in my head. And then there are no bones to DNA test.
Yeah, because I feel like it would have been a lot of girls, so they had to do something like it had to be a strong enough fire. What, James?
My optimistic theory is that she got her chocolate and she got her books and she got some gone, because what woman in 1910 wouldn't want to get some gone?
Yes.
And then, she's a writer, she's a creative, she's an intellectual. So all the more likely that she would want to not have anything to do with that society, right?
Right.
And then you've got the dudes with the rather sus story of finding her signet and whatnot, which is a really convenient narrative that a writer could have come up with to cover her tracks. So the hopeful side of me wants to think that she did a good job of getting the hell out of Dodge and covering her tracks.
Well, she could have sold her ring. She could have sold her ring to make money for.
That's true. She pawned off a bunch of jewelry, so she could have gone back and pawned off some more.
And you know what? I'm going to lean towards she got gone, like James said, because going back to her friend who saw her last and said she was in good spirits, like fine. If she was going off to get an abortion, I would feel like she'd probably be a little bit nervous about that.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. She bought that book. She's going on a trip. She's going to read her book. She got some chocolates as her little snack. Yeah, that's the one I hope. I hope she went to Europe and just like fucked off and lived a writer's life in Paris or something with her man.
Heck yeah.
Well, that's the disappearance of Dorothy Arnold.
Perhaps she went off to Europe, as you said, it was in Italy, where they saw the
Mhm.
woman. So they meet up and they have a torrid love affair together. They have happiness for 2 years, but then they decide, you know what? We should go back. We should tell them the truth. And so they booked passages on the Titanic.
No.
The ship went down. They were like, well, shit. This is going to make a really good story someday.
God.
I love you, Joe.
So unfortunately, there's a lack of vibrations in this story, so I'm kind of at a loss as to what to contribute.
Vibration.
NASCAR, guys.
Oh,
NASCAR.
oh, okay.
Wow. See, I got it, James.
How
I-
many of our episodes so far have circled around vibrations? Just saying.
Vibrate at your discretion. Vibrate responsibly.
Vibrate responsibly, dude.
Vibrate responsibly.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for that. Sorry for being Debbie Downers, guys.
Hey, she went.
Hey,
to-
I tried to offer a hopeful ending here.
Yeah, that
life.
That
Yep,
she was like, "F y'all, I'm gonna go be a writer. Peace out."
that's
Yeah.
right.
I mean, that I like that idea.
I got my chocolate. I got my books.
Yep.
F
Ready to
y'all.
go.
Screw 1910.
Although that's a real downer for her sister's debutante ball, though.
They're the real victim in this.
You know, her family made fun of her a lot. Maybe she didn't like anybody in the family and was like, this is a real F you.
Yeah. I'm just seeing it from her perspective. It's like there is nobody here and on her side of the, on her side, right? So screw everybody. Peace out.
What was her sister's name?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't remember.
I like the idea. She's like, she's heading off. She's like, Tiffany's gonna be pissed because all they're gonna be talking about is where's Eleanor? Where is she? Or where's Dorothy? Dorothy? Take that, bitch. That's what you get for insulting my writing.
Maybe she went to.
These chocolates are good.
Well, thank you for joining the little podcast of horrors. If you have any spooky stories or anything like that you want to send us for
If you
future
know anything about what
listeners,
the hell happened to Dorothy,
yeah, if you know anything about what happened to Dorothy.
Dorothy, if you're somehow still alive and 136 years old, email us at littlepodcasthorrors.com. Oh, wait,
at
all right.
Gmail.
Littlepodcasthorrors@gmail.com. It's been a long day, people. My brain is getting a little mushy.
And also, if you liked this, please review on Spotify our podcast. Also, share it with others. And if you are so inclined, we love donations because we like money.
We want to buy chocolates and a book and then just fuck off.
and hail
Ashtar.